Now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. She is currently the president of the Texas Eagle Forum in Austin. I guess it's Austin, right?
That's good.
Is that good enough? Okay. She is very familiar with the inner workings of the Texas legislature and the people who work there. I understand that she plans to give us a midterm election summary and a little rundown on the issues expected to be taken up in the upcoming legislative session. Her passion for biblical truth, self-government, the preservation of life, and the freedoms mandated by the Constitution has led her into many areas of service for God, country, and state. She has been recognized and presented the Texas Eagle Award by Phyllis Shively, who is a great lady in Texas politics, as well as all of the, I don't even know how to say this, she was a wonderful activist, is basically what I'm trying to say. Prior to her active involvement in government and politics, she led several prayer teams. Most notably, she was Dallas prayer coordinator for Promise Keepers for 10 years. She continues to lead and participate in intercessory, I'm probably saying that wrong, intercessory prayer teams for our country, political leaders, and pastors. She's a mother of 7 beautiful children, one of which is here tonight. That's Abigail, right? Okay, that's Abigail. How old are you, Abigail?
I'm 16.
Huh? 16. Wow, beautiful. Anyway, and she's a wife of 29 years, and this is her husband, Scott, here. And she is a faithful citizen of these United States of America. All that, and besides for that, she's an Aggie. Please give a big Trinity County welcome to Miss Tracye Bradford. Just don't pull it hard because it.
Remember that so I don't throw my hands around. I talk with my hands, so I'll be careful. It's probably safer this way. Good evening. It's sad I'm getting where I have to have my little. Okay. I have to tell you, when I got the message from Mickey about coming to speak here, I knew it was a yes. I didn't know how we were going to do it, if the days wouldn't work out, but I wanted to come back to what has been my favorite group to speak at. And we've gone around the state. My family can attest to that. And there's a lot of good groups out there, but you guys have always just had a special place in my heart. And as I sat here tonight and thought about, just what I wanted to share with y'all really had no idea that when I was here last time, I was in a new role and very nervous about doing that well. And you just encouraged me and my family so much. And as I left here, I thought, there are people that do care. There are people that want to be involved. Amen. And it really has always, y'all come back to my mind time and time again, because I can tell you, as you all I'm sure have felt, this last January, after going through session last year and special session and getting ready for the elections, and there were some nasty elections up in our area, kind of pitting friend against friend, and by the time we were getting to January, I told my husband, I'm at the point now I want to just hide, and I don't know if I'm going to give you and the kids my phone number. I mean, I was at the point where, and I think that would have been for their benefit. I was really kind of worn out and sad. Just kind of for me, it was watching people in our own group attack each other, and we're already being attacked so often when you open up your email or when you go to the news. And just hearing the other day in Pennsylvania, there has been a city that told some people that own a farm, you cannot hold a Bible study on your land. That would include worship, singing of songs, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, is this China? I mean, if you study, we got a document one time that talked about the state church in China, and then what they were arresting and throwing these people in jail for, who were worshiping and singing of songs and reading out loud from the Bible. And they were telling, I believe, the people in Pennsylvania, the fine was going to be $1,000 a day. I had to go, I hope this is wrong. I mean, I'm hoping somebody's just really made a bad mistake, and it appears that they have not. And it really is, it's frightening to me that we're at that place where someone even thinks they could attempt that. And trust me, I mean, during session, I think there were a few times we went, huh? Like, people are going to know you did this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's an ability to hide or an ability that they think they can talk to you and tell you something else and you won't go follow up on it. But I'm thinking to myself, you don't know these activists. I mean, yeah, there's some people that will take and run with whatever the story is, but I've come across quite a few people who really want to do the right thing, and they really do want to have and speak the truth. And so I want to just kind of run through a little bit of what I saw and what we got accomplished last session. The things we were asking for from Eagle Forum, we actually had a really good year. And if you look and inside of the torch we handed out, that actually has the scorecard, and you might see his scores are a little higher than some of these other groups. That being, the reason is we cover about 40 to 50 pieces of legislation. The other groups tend to cover fewer, and they're more specific to their issues. So Texas Right to Life is going to focus on the life issue. Texas Homeschool Coalition, parental rights and homeschooling. Empower Texan, more fiscal. Texas Values, religious liberty. Well, we actually focused on what I call Defend Texas. And those were bills like American Law for American Courts, which we finally got passed. The grid, which we got down to the wire, and then Byron Cook, who's gone now, decided that he wasn't even going to put it back up for a vote after he said he would in the committee. So we, at the last minute, that one did not pass, so we will be back again this session working on securing our grid. We have some other bills that did pass, and I'm just going to throw these all together here in the Defend Texas head. We had bills that had to do with Texas monies that were invested in Iran or other countries that were state sponsors of terrorism. And we had actually asked for something to be done about this several sessions ago. And this session, Senator Van Taylor, who's now running for Congress, took both, it was one that was about divesting and then also preventing any companies having jobs with the state of Texas that were going to go into these countries. So we were really excited that those passed, and they passed overwhelmingly. And what was interesting is as we got to the end of session, I was sitting in the gallery and I had texted Senator Taylor. I'm like, they just voted it through, and I think it was almost unanimous. Maybe one or two people didn't vote for it. And he texted back, this is really serious business. He said there were some lobbyists from a couple of the big oil companies that came in pleading with them to change this bill. And he's like, no, that's the purpose for the bill.
That's right.
And it was out there since November. And I didn't say it to him, but I kind of, as I hung the phone up, I thought, wow, I'm a homeschool mom, and today we managed to tick off big oil, big energy, and the Muslim Brotherhood. Not a bad day for a homeschool mom. So we were very grateful for people that think out of the box. Senator Van Taylor is one of them. He also helped with the Marriage Act bill, which had to do with these young girls that are being taken to other countries, or either they're bringing people here and they're being married off at 14 and 15 years of age. There's also, we had an excellent anti-BDS bill, which was a pro-Israel bill that Phil King did get passed, and that one was one no one would touch for years. And when I asked the group that helps us, Frank Gaffney and his group, I said, have you looked at this bill? And they said, this is a really strong bill. And they said, you know, but a lot of times the community support isn't as strong. I said, well, the guy that's the liaison on this is Michael Dell. Is that okay? That was Dell Computers. He's like, yeah, I think y'all are going to have a good one. So Representative Phil King did a great job getting that passed early in the session. And we are thankful to stand with the state of Israel. Texas is, I think, their fourth largest business partner. I mean, Texas, not the United States, but Texas has a great relationship with Israel. So that was exciting. So for Eagle Forum, what our top 5 things, we were very excited to see those checked off during session. So that is why some of the scores are higher, because I don't think these people wanted to be seen on the wrong side of history on these issues. I think they've over the years learned. The other thing was we were the only grassroots group down there that was focusing on human trafficking. It's not that the other groups aren't wanting to make sure, we all, who in here is for human trafficking, but it was important to me that there was a voice from the conservative side that was actually speaking up. We would have meetings with legislators. Some of these legislators had not heard about it. And it was important to inform them what was going on, that it is in Texas, that Texas has a main corridor up through Houston, that there are 300,000 victims of human trafficking in Texas, and 60% of that is labor trafficking. And it's very interesting that we were contacted with Senator Cruz's office, because he is actually doing legislation with Senator Blumenthal, and it's impacting. There's something going on in the line of immigration that somehow these traffickers are getting information, and they are trafficking people who are trying to come here legally. And so they're paying attention. I was happy to see someone is paying attention to the labor trafficking. There was some very good legislation passed regarding human trafficking, but I'll be real honest with you, it's kind of the end thing to be, support this now. We've tried in years past, and we weren't getting as much help. And so to see it be attended to was great, but I also had my radar up because everybody and their brother was putting up some piece of legislation about human trafficking. And so in there was some that was not good and could actually have counterproductive effects. So that was one of the jobs we were doing, and toward the end of session it was kind of exciting because I thought the last 3 days, so my dear husband was homeschooling the kids at home. I'm doing this as a volunteer, so they were also supporting me doing this. Going to Austin 2 or 3 days a week, and then coming back home, and going there and coming back, all through session, and toward the very end, I'm thinking, okay, 3 more days and we're done. This is going to be easy. We've got all the work done. I haven't even touched the Privacy Act. I'm sure many of you remember the bathroom bill. Try living through that. So, last 3 days, we're up there thinking we're just kind of, we're going to work on whatever, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. And all of a sudden, we look and see that there is a problem with one of the trafficking bills that Google and Facebook are pushing back on some things they already agreed to. So they are in conference committee, and so we're getting these handouts and we're trying to get this information to these legislators to not back down. And we happen to run into the young man. He serves as the outreach director for the governor. And he goes, oh, we haven't seen this. This is good. He says, is there anything else you're working on that you would like us to know about? Thank you. And I looked at my friend and we were like, yes, there is a bill that at first you think, oh, this is good, I think. But it was about teaching young ones about sexual assault without letting the parents know. And I was deeply troubled by that. And we went in and he goes, come meet with us. And there were a couple people there, and we went and sat down and we shared our concerns. Now that bill passed the House and the Senate because nobody wanted to go on record for voting against it. And on one hand I understand, but when you looked at the bill and you looked at what it was doing to protect the children and the parents, and think about the children, that if you didn't let the parents know, and there was a child that had happened at preschool or something, and you've not notified the parents, the impact on that child. And so I was shocked when it was kind of interesting because somehow we made the newspaper. I saw where the governor vetoed it, and we were like, yes. And then I saw not long after that that we were in the newspaper, and a guy had one of the reporters in the Tribune had did information request on the outreach director had emails with he outreaches to activists. So he had outreached to us after the fact when he had already vetoed the bill and just sent us an email to say, hey, did you see the bill was vetoed? All of this has happened after it's been in the news, and the man is doing his job. And that was that was big news in Austin, that he was reaching out, the outreach director was reaching out to activists, and I thought, wow, that's all you got. Okay, we'll take it.
Yes.
So that we had a busy session, and I'll just touch real briefly on the Privacy Act because it was not dealt with, and that was one of the most frustrating. I think it's a good picture for a lot of these issues we're facing right now, because it's not going to end here. And what would drive me crazy is when people would call it the bathroom bill or the potty patrol. Like, I have 7 kids, and that's the last thing I want to do is patrol a potty. I've done my time. So I remember thinking, why is this so outrageous to these people who are coming down there in busloads to call us haters and bigots? Because I don't want my daughters, I don't want my husband in a private facility. I'm not just talking bathrooms, I'm talking showers, I'm talking you go on a band trip and you feel like a woman and you perceive yourself as a woman and you want to stay in a room with some of the girls and you're a 16-year-old boy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about trying to go after the transgenders, or, I mean, if you could have heard what they said about us while we're sitting in the room going, didn't know that about myself. It was so far from what the issue was. And the bottom line was, as a woman, as a citizen, I'm just saying, I don't want men in my restroom.
Yes.
It was just that simple. The fun part, I say it's my Marco Rubio impersonation. Yeah, when that actually came out of my mouth, I was looking at the chairman of the committee, and I saw her face, and she's like, yes. Like, it was just, we kind of had this moment of, hold on, we're trying to be eloquent, and we're trying to give all these reasons, and it really just comes down to, as a citizen in this country, and as a woman, I'm just saying, I don't want a man in those facilities. That's it.
Especially not with your granddaughter.
Yeah, or, I have sons that I don't want to be put in a situation where they could be falsely accused of something. It has happened. And so it wasn't hate, it wasn't bigotry, it was a simple expression of my right as an individual. And it was amazing to me, the hullabaloo and the hate and it's heartbreaking, because you do realize a lot of those people, they're hurting. I mean, you can see in their face, they're hurting. But at the same time, you can't necessarily, there were some people I actually spoke with and we sat down and talked, but there was so much drama around that whole thing. And I'm watching it, and we're on the inside of it, and toward the end, you realize they tried, our Freedom Caucus tried every way they could to get that bill passed. I mean, if you could have heard the different creative ways they were trying to get this taken care of. And to have people like Byron Cook, who fought back, who prevented it, to have a speaker who would just not let the will of the people be heard. They had already passed it twice out of the Senate, early. That to me is how the process works. And what it got down to, and what was the saddest part of all, is that you get to the end of it and you start to see just how many people who were so passionate about this were really passionate about the issue. Or are they passionate about having talking points that can fill their pockets when it comes time for campaigning? I hate to be the one to say that, but it's what you watched. And even to the degree of we need to keep saying the word bathroom. And all of a sudden it hit me, well, if you keep saying bathroom, that sounds a lot more personal and scary, and people will react to that. But I'm not talking about just bathrooms. I mean, we're talking about we wanted to say multi-use facility, because that way we could cover changing rooms for sports. You know, you've got these boys that are competing as girls in wrestling and winning. They're competing in track races and winning. Well, guess where they're changing clothes? So we wanted to cover all of that. So I guess what I want to bring all this around to say, I learned some lessons. And I hope that when I go back, that I can take some of those lessons and make changes in the way I operate, and even be more prepared going in. And real quickly, some of the things we are going to be going back with next year, we will be working on some human trafficking bills. We had an event with the Attorney General, and he came to speak. We actually were asked by their office to help them, and we are going to go around the state and do this. So we started up in the Metroplex where I live, and the coolest thing I was telling Nikki is we had over 50 different groups represented that night. It was really great. And you know what I really loved is I didn't know most of those people. So we're now able to talk to them. Some of them have no care whatsoever if you're Republican or Democrat. They are there to help those women. And it was really an opportunity to reach outside our box and get to know some new people and let them see what we do. And you know, they signed up to receive our emails, and they are signing up to get our newsletter. And they want to be on the next session. We'll do the same thing. We're actually going to start it in September. Every Monday, you'll get an email from us. And if you're signed up, right now, we're sending out articles and things you might not have seen, different points of interest. My husband was saying we need to talk. Different news items. We will be doing, when we had this event the other evening, every Monday, we had 200 people register, over 50 different groups. And so out of that has come some new relationships. I'm encouraging people pertaining to legislation that either kind of step outside of the groups we normally work with, and you know, there are some times you have to kind of go, oh, really? Kind of bite your tongue a little bit, but we're opening up conversation. And I had a guy come up at the end of the meeting, and I told Attorney General Paxton, he said, you want me to just stick to the trafficking issue? And I said, y'all had a great week, share what you've done. And I had this guy come up to me at the end, he goes, you know, when he started talking, he goes, I have not been in support of his stance on DACA. He said, but after I heard him, I agreed with him. I thought, if we can start opening up these arenas around the state where we start with human trafficking, but maybe we can branch out to other issues, and we can start building a broader base. And trust me, if you know me, you don't deviate from your core values. I never will. But we can build bridges. And I have seen this work over and over. Even during the Privacy Act, there was a man he's a gay man, and he has become a friend, and he knows clearly where I stand on this issue. But he actually gave some of the best wisdom and insight into wording of legislation that we got. And what was frustrating is then we had some of the people that were in charge not accept it, and we ended up losing all of it. So I know there are places we can build bridges, and we can still hold to our moral foundation. Yes. And we can be Jesus in those places. Amen. Which to me, by the way, is the utmost of why I'm here. Can't do that, I'm done. So next session, we're already talking with some groups that we've been working with, considering doing something like a terrorist registry, which would be a lot like you have your sexual predator registry. These are people that are being watched, that we know have a problem. We have more than several up where we live. The Freedom of Speech Act, this also has to do with, this one's actually passed in California and New York. This has to do with bloggers and protecting their freedom, because they kind of come under, they're not protected like a news person has been in the past, so that has come up, some liability cases. So we've got some wording on that. We've got, work on parents' rights, CPS, privacy rights, Privacy Act, and I know property rights, property taxes. I was telling Mickey, I kind of lived through a little bit today of what big government looks like, and I won't give you the whole story, but I have a friend who for 2 years has tried to adopt the foster child. This young girl had been in the system for 5 of her 7 years on this earth. And the reason they kept her in the system is because her mother and the baby daddy would work the system and work the stuff right before the time was up, so they'd give them 2 more years, while this little girl is never knowing where her home will be, which to me is child abuse. And then when they found out my friend, who was doing a wonderful job with this young girl, they started going after her for her faith. And I'm happy to say, thank you, God. They got an attorney on their own. It was worth it to them, while we were paying the bill for another baby daddy who's not the daddy of this child to have a lawyer so he could sue for her. Try to figure that all out, but you were paying for it. They got her, and they were able to adopt her yesterday. So, 2 years. But now Grace, her name, she wanted to change her name to Grace. And so now Grace is Musen, and she has a home. So, but I want to let you know, in the process of that, this precious lady who has such a great reputation down at the Capitol, and she and I worked together as part of the Mom Caucus, and she was able, because of her credibility and who she was able to have a sit down face-to-face with some of the head people at CPS. And she let them know clearly, she's very articulate and very much does her homework. And she said, Tracye, this isn't just about getting our daughter, this is about correcting some really deep issues. Yeah. And she's one of those that won't stop till it's done. So that will be on the list too. So there's she's on the back there. Yeah, she's on the right, Cindy. Yeah, just so that was exciting. And it's just, you know, when you watch big government, there was some other issues that happened today, and I just sat there and I let this person kind of explain what was going on. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. And it's wasting our time, it's wasting our money, and we can do better. And so little by little, you know, I see people starting to wake up, so we don't want to give up hope. I will say, just on the elections, I don't think anyone, or very few, I shouldn't say anyone, very few people that have the Beto sticker on their car even have any clue of what he's talking about. So I that's just beyond frustrating. But my concern isn't necessarily that Ted Cruz will lose. My concern is down ballot races. And so we are telling everybody, any chance we have, please get out and vote. I always say take 10 to win. Find 10 people you have influence with and make sure they vote. If every one of you in this room did that, we would see elections turned. I was shocked at some of the close races we had up in our districts. And the judges, you'll know this, we were talking about this, I'm preaching to the choir, but your down ballot races, we're going to have state legislators who are good legislators. But because of that race, if our people don't turn out to vote down ballot, we could lose a Matt Rinaldi. And I don't know if y'all know Matt Rinaldi, one of the sharpest minds, even his enemies. And no, that's one of the brightest guys there is down there. So we need to encourage. And the other great thing about this is, y'all know people in other areas of the state. So think big. Because I had to learn that because I went from running Dallas Equal Forum to Texas Equal Forum. And I kept focusing, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a statewide organization. And we've got people we can impact all over the state. So call your cousins, call your family, call your friends all around the state, because the vote for Senator Cruz is statewide. And I will tell you, they are working. How many of you have gotten a text from the Beto campaign? We have a ton of people up where we are. And people that even work for Cruz have been getting them. So they are push. They're going to cover every base. I was telling somebody earlier, I get the emails from the Democratic Party. I didn't sign up for them. I just started getting them. And then I was like, I don't want this. And I thought, oh, wait. Maybe I do. And I'm praying for some of those people. They're on my prayer list. And little did they know. So I would say make part of your arsenal as you get ready for the upcoming primaries or the upcoming elections in November is you are reaching out to everybody you can think of. And you know what? If you bug them a little bit, apologize over Christmas. Just or even Thanksgiving. Just, this is serious stuff. We've got to get these judges. Look at Dallas. One election flipped that entire city 10 years ago, and we have worked our tails off, and we are still having a hard time getting people back up there as judges. We've got one. So that's my biggest concern. The other thing, do y'all have a vetting committee that you do? Okay, y'all would be great at this. You're the perfect group to do this. One of my favorite things that I get to do is Texas Homeschool Coalition has a vetting committee, and it's run by a couple I have great respect for. And one night she gave a call to me and she says, "Hey, you want to be on this vetting committee?" I'm like, "Yes." And I love stuff like that. But I had no idea what I was getting into. And that was 3 rounds ago? And we spend quite a bit of time. I mean, we're in the Metroplex, so that's part of it. But there's 8 of us, and it's changed over time, but we get anywhere from judicial candidates to statewide races to lieutenant governor. It's all over the board. And we sit down with them for 30-minute increments. And the way we've set it up is you do 30 minutes. You just pick like a Sunday and you go from 4 to 9 and every 30 minutes. And you cut it off at 30 minutes. But you vet and you ask these. They actually have an incredible list of questions. They're hard. I was like, what does that mean? We've seen even some of the judges go, I think I answered this backwards. We're like, well, you're off the list. No, I'm just kidding. But I learned so much in that time. You will learn so much about the different judicial offices. I had no idea and how important, and I'll tell you what, Representative Ashby impacts your life. I'll tell you right now, those county judges, they have way more impact in your day-to-day life. Right. And you want to know who you have, and you have a say in this. That's right. So I would really encourage you to consider, I'm going to add something on, but consider getting a vetting group together, and then you just start reaching out to people. Maybe you get together with some of the other groups and pull 2 people from each group. But it has been one of the best things I've done. I have learned so much. I have met so many good candidates, and I will tell you what's exciting is sometimes, you only put 1 person in office, but you met 4 good people, and you keep those people involved. We've got people now that we met years ago that are running and have actually won new jobs, but in the process they got more people fired up because they got involved. So as the Democrats are excellent at building a farm team, we need to do this. And I know that in this room the brain power and the creativity and the passion is here, and I want us to quit being followers and we should be leaders. And that's as a Christian. That's as a Christian and as an American. And as somebody watching a country that I think has been a gift, and I love this country. I had the blessing of going to Israel this last year, and wow. We are as I believe as a Christian to have the gift of knowing what Israel means to us, and then to also know the gift that God gave us in this nation. I don't have words, which is shocking. And I will do whatever I have to do to fight for that. And I think that we have the mind of Christ. It's the way I believe. It's what the Word of God says. And that we should not be following the culture. We should be leading the culture.
Right. Yes.
And I know, I look at these young people, and I'm working with a young lady, and she has a heart to do this. They just want to know how to plug in, and they want to know what to fight for. And that was the thing that I really caught with her, because so many times it's easy. Well, for 8 years it was really easy to tell you what we were against, because it was everything. But now there's so many things that we can be for, and they're waiting to hear that. They aren't real thrilled with what they saw. So now we have the opportunity, and I want to just encourage y'all to start conversations, to start reaching out to people, to start communications that are, what are we for? And I will tell you, there were people in Austin that get a bad rap sometimes up where we are, and I'm like, these guys were great. These were some of the few guys that had the guts to stand up for us, and they just don't go and publicize it. And because someone's decided to call them a rhino because they were friendly to somebody, or they wait, gosh, I'd be in trouble all the time. I'm always talking to everybody. But it's opening some doors. And again, you're not going to change my conviction, but how can I ever show you Jesus if I never have a conversation with you? And there are people that I will say, your church security bill. Did any of y'all hear anything about that? This was great. It came up at a conversation with my aunts this weekend. They were all talking about in their churches what each of them have. I go, do you realize that would have been illegal? There was a little code tucked away that Representative Rinaldi found, that would have made you having someone in your church with a gun as security, it would have been illegal. You even had to get some kind of documentation to have a lost and found. Not joking, I saw it. That bill, first of all, if it hadn't been for Representative Phil King, who listened to the people, they pushed back, he killed one bill that was bad, this other bill got through, and then it died. It died in calendars. Church security, how hard is that? And it had to be eventually amended onto another bill about tow trucks.
So did it pass?
It did. Labor clause. It does what it needed to do, because Representative Rinaldi, who is in trouble, made sure that he never would amend something that would lose the strength of the wording. So it did pass because it was a labor code issue, I believe. That's why they could put it on the tow truck bill. See how fun this is?
I don't understand that at all.
Oh, I know. You're going, I said, there were times you'd be like, huh, what? Okay, what does that mean?
Well, with the new bill, what can churches do to protect themselves?
You now can have, without having training, what was going to happen was they wanted to fine you if you did not go through training through a certain group that wanted money. Can I just say what y'all already know? 99% of what goes on down there has to do with money.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's right.
It's sad. It really is. I was like, I guess, what Anna Green Gables, oh, we can all do the right thing. And then it's like, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought. And it's just sadly human nature void of wisdom. And so when you go in to fight, I will tell you, don't give up. And if you see something about someone, this happened today, there was an article that came out about Representative Rinaldi, Representative Stickland, Representative Tenderholt, Cecil Bell, and Matt Schaefer. And it was an article that, just the title alone, I'm like, okay, I know that's wrong, but a lot of people wouldn't. Yeah. And there's a group called Reclaim Austin. What do you think that's about? Bingo. And this was totally taken out of context. I had conversations with these guys, so when the person calls me and says, oh, I've got these people all upset about this, I'm like, well, first of all, I had already had this conversation, so I know why this happened, and it had to do with rape cases, and if there's DNA evidence, they don't have a time limit, so it can be taken care of. And as far as them not working on human trafficking language, that is absolutely false. One of the strongest bills put forward was by Representative Tenderholt. But see, what if they just took that at face value? And so what I encouraged her to do, I said, I'm glad you reached out to me, but also just ask their office. And yeah, you know what? Sometimes they won't give you the truth. But you've done the right step first. You've gone to the person. And a lot of times, they appreciate that you did. So I want to encourage you, when you have questions or you see stories, You know, you can reach out to somebody, like if it's a religious liberties or something. I mean, you don't always talk to me. I will tell you if I don't know, I'll send you off to whoever does. But or reach out to that legislator's office. Give them the chance to respond. They are human beings. They have 7,000 bills. By the time the speaker appointed the committees in the end of February, they had March to May 27th to work on all that legislation. These are people with families, jobs. So I'm not here to rah-rah for anyone in particular. I'm just saying across the board. Even when you see an article you kind of hope is true about the other side, I'd step back, take a breath. Does this make sense? Is somebody, I mean, there are people that are wicked, I get it, but they're on both sides. I want to see us lead with integrity. I was reading something the other day and it said wisdom is made with creativity, integrity, and excellence. And I want us to operate in that place. And I believe we can because of who drives us, the Holy Spirit. That's the only way this country turns around. And we can start in Texas. You can start with your own vetting group. You're going to scare the heck out of people. I'm telling you. You know, this is where you're sitting down, 8 people, a candidate sits in front of you for 30 minutes. It's just them. And you get to listen, you get to watch their reaction, you get to kind of get a sense of where they're coming from. And then they can't say nobody spoke to them from your group because you did the work. And then you walk away having a better understanding of who these people are. You find some diamonds in the rough. You also find and learn more about these positions. Hey, we've got a lady now running for something.
What do you do with the information that you get by vetting?
We do it for a particular group, but then I take it as well. Like, we don't all have to agree. We'll vote. And then that goes back to Help for Texas Homeschool Coalition. They send out their answers. For me, because it's just me right now, we just put a board together for Texas Eagle Forum. I liked having the information because then when someone wanted to be endorsed, I was like, okay, I've sat down with you and your opponent. That way you kind of you protect yourself too, so you're not just picking favorites. So what you do is you would just take that information, discuss among yourselves. And you know what? And half of you may like one person, half of you may like another, but you've had some healthy debate. You've learned about the position, and those people know they've been talked to. And then I would share that information with friends, or not necessarily share they take our stuff, like we don't go and post that anywhere. But I have information, I have a sense of it, so I can write up my own response. But then you don't just vote blindly, and then I'll tell you when people are looking, who do we vote for? Because I send out my list, it's just my opinion. But they've also known that we've had that time. So I think there's some credibility with the fact you sat down and spoke with these people.
Yeah.
So I think y'all would be great at it. I think you would have a good group of people. There's some great questions that come out of it. There's some really good opportunities. And I just think it's a way to have a little bit of accountability too, because you know what, if you've got a bunch of people that have made up their mind they're going to run for judge, or you're going to run and when you're done I'm going to take over this role and you're going to go here, and they've already laid out y'all's whole plan.
Yeah.
And why vote? You know, why? Because they think no one's paying attention. I'm sure that's not happening here. I mean, every city. I worked on a city campaign. I couldn't believe how much that was wrapped up. So I would just encourage you, and I learned a lot. I mean, that's what was, oh, that's okay. I could not believe the responsibility, thank you, of some of these judges and putting that in their hands for our youth or for families, family court. And there were some things that came out in some of the vettings we did where you're just like, whoa, I need to pay better attention. So I think, to me, I now feel compelled to do that because they are going to be sitting in that judicial seat, and they impact our county. They impact my life directly. And you can have a voice in that. So,
can we get a copy of the questions that you all generally come up with for vetting?
I can ask. If not, we're working on a group that I'd be happy to share with you. We have a judge that actually has offered to help us, just so we know really what are the best questions to ask. It's an older gentleman that said he would be glad to help. I was like, this would be great, because really that and the prayer calls we've done are my two favorite things that I really get to do in this role. And I'll kind of wind up with that. One of the very favorite things that we've done is we pray for these legislators, and we pray for their families. And before the primaries, we'll have a prayer call. And we had I thought, we'll get a couple, and we had all these prayer warriors on the phone, and we had 20 different legislators, judicial candidates. One of them was running for the Texas Supreme Court. And it was an hour phone call, and everybody was praying. It was a hefty prayer call. And the phone, I heard it click a couple of times. I thought, we may have lost a few. That might have been a little scary. And no, they stayed on the entire time. And I've had feedback from them since then. And I just think that's one of the most important things that we do, is either text them a little note from time to time, pray directly with them, pray for their families. That to me is foundational, and it's relational. And I do want to say this. People say all the time that politics is not, it's like get the job done. It's not really about relationship. It's just business or whatever. That's baloney. It's absolutely rot. We are there to be ambassadors for Christ, and there is no way. There's no way we can be like him and not care. And so that's the way I'll do it. I may not last long. I'll be there as long as he asks me to, or has given me this role. But I think, we started something nationally with our Eagle Forum, and this may be something y'all want to do as you change or shift gears here. 7 o'clock, and thankfully it didn't go off tonight, and I'll close with this. So at 7 o'clock every night, my alarm goes off on my phone. It's a real peppy little Christian song, and it's a reminder for me to pray for our country. And at 7:05 it goes off, and that's to pray for the human trafficking issue. So the night we had the big event, and the Attorney General's up there talking, and my purse is up on the front row. And I'm at the very back. And all of a sudden, I hear this music, and I'm like, oh no. And I know it's just going to go and go and go. It's not going to turn off. So I have to walk in front of him talking, and they're taping it, and it's literally me going, excuse me, and he's laughing, which was great. But it worked out really well, because later I was going to ask all of them to set their phones to 7:05 so that they're praying. So that's something that we started doing, and I love it. I can be in a restaurant. I was at a restaurant the other night, and a friend of mine's phone went off, and then my phone went off. She goes, my daughter told me about what you're doing. So, I think it'd be kind of cool if, sometime we're out to dinner and the whole restaurant starts going off on the phone at 7 o'clock. So, all that to say, I think God has opened a door, and I believe he is not finished with this nation. I know he's not finished with Texas, and I know he's not finished with me. And we have an opportunity, I believe, to be a light and to turn this around and do it in a way nobody sees coming. Thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate you guys.